Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dirty Pat Walsh channel here on YouTube with me, your host, Dirty Pat Walsh. So I'm just sitting here dipping some Copenhagen snuff because it's awesome. I'm checking out the comments on my YouTube things there and my little fucking studio creator thing that every YouTube content creator should have. It's free in the Google App Store or whatever the hell you use. But yeah. So Melman Mandela asked a bunch of questions, and he also asked if there was any way to hear the music I made when I was pissing on cars and stuff like that. So what I'm going to try to do is I have the soul cassette of the Jackson Sanatorium, and I'm going to try to play it and answer the questions if I can do that. It's very distracting to me, but let's see. Let's see what the volume levels are like here. All right. So the first question was, I often refer to Hillary, and how did I meet Hillary? Well, when all's said and done, I've only ever actually meeting her once. That was the beginning of last month, and sorry, I'm trying to turn this down. Yeah, I met her in Pittsburgh last month when I Made a Fire went down to play the Warehouse Weekend. But I've been talking to Hillary for a number of years on Facebook. We met in a Facebook group called Punk's Not Dead, but I'm Not Far Off. It's all for aging old punkers, you know, the 40 plus set. Yeah, that's where I met Hillary. Talking in there, and we hit it off, and we just started talking. Now I talk to her all the time, and she's a great, wonderful person in my life. So, the next question is: have I ever been to New England or Vermont, or well, have I ever been in the state of Vermont? Yes, but no. Like, yes, in the fact that I physically have been there, but didn't really hang out there. I was traveling through with my family, doing something with some people. I'll bring up later. But yeah, I drove through there once. That's all I've ever been to Vermont. Do I like the Blues Brothers movie? The original Blues Brothers movie, in my last batch of questions, he asked what was my favorite movie, and I said Raging Bull. And then immediately after I said that, I thought, oh man, what about the Blues Brothers? Blues Brothers is one of my favorite movies ever. I might even like it more than Raging Bull. Yeah, I think I do. It's probably my favorite movie, actually. Do any of my relatives play music? My dad, or mom, or anything like that. The only musicians other than me in my family that I know of are my niece, Lily. She's quite a talented musician on a number of things. I know she plays like piano and violin, and I gave her a harmonica to mess around with. But she plays a lot of music. My niece Lily, 12 years old. My son also plays the bass guitar. My daughter plays piano, violin, and ukulele. My ex-wife wasn't too bad a drummer. If you could, she was good at drumming like a couple beats. Um, but those two beats she could do, she was great at them. So, um, but when it comes to my relatives, my mother's not been a musician. Uh, I remember for a time in my youth, she thought she could sing, and she couldn't. So, um, my father played lead alto sax in a dance band in the 50s. Um, they have a record somewhere. I've seen it, but I doubt I'll ever get a copy of it. It was like his high school. Uh, I saw it at his high school, behind glass. Um, but yeah, he was a mean sax player, and before he died, he gave me a saxophone. I have a saxophone in my studio. I'm thinking about bringing it out a bit more. Um, yeah. So my dad was a good musician, but throughout my childhood, he played before I came along, kind of thing, right? Uh-huh. So yeah. Oh yeah, but I wanted to say, in the late '80s, my mother remarried. Uh, she got married to this abomination of a man named Bliss Flower. That was his real name. It was Bliss Flower. He was from New Brunswick. Flower is a very common name in the Maritimes. Um, and I don't know, his mom was fucking nuts and married him Bliss, or called him Bliss. So yeah, Bliss Flower was a 6'4", quite rotund, balding, uh, total redneck. You know, uh, had quite a serious collection of rifles. Um, really into hunting, really into fishing, really into, which is all good and well. It's all fine and well, but you just had to know the guy. He was really weird. Um, although one thing he did that I admired was now when we used to drive between Oakville and New Brunswick during the early phases of their relationship. Uh, I'd often be in the car with Bliss. Okay, I don't know why. Probably because I could tolerate his uh, nonstop bullshitting and stories and stuff. Um, I I could just tune him out. But anyway, in his car, he was all about being a trucker, but he drove this car. He had a CB setup, total CB setup, blah blah, right into that. Um, Now he would smoke. He would smoke cigarettes. He would smoke old port cigars. These little port wine tipped cigars we used to be able to get in Canada. I haven't seen them for years. I used to like an old port every now and then. Um, and he chewed too. Um, so he'd have a bag of chewing tobacco. Uh, he chewed Red Man. Um, and he had this funnel set up. Like he cut open an old milk jug and like just cut it off so it was like a funnel. And he attached a piece of hose and taped it all up around the the little end, and ran the hose out the door of his car somehow. Um, so anyway, but that was his spitter. He'd just spit and it would go out onto the road. I thought that was quite ingenious. um, yeah. But anyway, the flowers. My new adopted family. When my mother got married to this fucking beast. um, he was him and his whole family, being from the Maritimes. Kind of what they do every night is go in the kitchen and jam, right? Big kitchen jam every night. And Bliss was the guitar player and usually the singer. Sorry, spitting a lot. Um, my stepbrother Evan played the banjo. He played not the clawhammer banjo, but the flat and Scruggs style or something, or 3-finger picking bullshit. I don't know. It's not the banjo I like playing. My stepbrother Lyndon also played guitar. Uh, my oh yes, Aunt Geneva, who was one fucking piece of work. I'd like to do a movie on that woman. um, she would play the auto harp, sometimes the accordion. Um, my grandmother, my step grandmother, was actually a very, very, very good harmonica player. She played the double-sided CG Hohner Echo harp. She was really good. But anyway, yeah, this is when I was, I've been playing harmonica for a few years, but this was kind of like an opportunity to jam with people, which I never had, right? Um, so I'd always try to sit in and jam along, figure out which key they were in, and toot along with them, and I got pretty good at it. And so one night, my stepfather says, all right, because they'd all take turns calling the tune, right? Let's play Red River Valley. Let's play Chicken in the Straw, or so, Turkey in the Straw, blah blah blah. And so they said, okay, well it's time for let Patrick take a turn picking the tune. So I wanted to play a Sonny Boy Williamson song, and so I started into a blues riff, and everything kind of shut down. And I can't remember who said it, if it was my stepfather or my stepbrother, but they said, nope, no, drop the N-bomb, no music in my kitchen. So that was a rude awakening to what I was dealing with there. Yeah, they didn't want me to play a black man's song in their kitchen jam. So I stayed clear of jamming with Bliss Flower and his family from then on in. I could go on about this guy. He once he okay, when they got married, right? We had to do something with Bliss's 86-year-old mother, right? My new grandmother. So she obviously had to come live with us, right? Because that was what was going on before, he was living with her and help take care of her and all that. So she had to come live with us. Now, I had the coolest bedroom when I was like 14 years old. I had my own outside door. It was an apartment, like a little apartment on one side of the house. Like I had my own outside door, my own bathroom, uh, walk-in closet. You know, it was great. I loved it. It was the best room I've ever had ever. And anyway, so Bliss's mother has to move in, and so he says to me, I'll get you anything you want if you give up your room for my mother." You know, and it wasn't really like it was like it was gonna happen. Uh, I was gonna be asked to move out of my room. So I figured, well, I might as well take him up on it, because if I say no, he's going to say, well, fuck you, we're doing it anyway. Um, so I asked for an electric guitar. I really wanted an electric guitar at that point. I had this big boxy acoustic guitar. I hated playing it. It was, I probably like it now, but I didn't like it then. So I said I wanted an electric guitar. I'm thinking I want a Telecaster or any kind of. I didn't know. I just wanted an electric guitar and an amplifier. So he said, "Okay, sure, no problem." And his mother moved in, and I was sleeping on the couch in the living room. I had no personal space. I had to wait till everyone was done watching TV before I could go to bed. Um, it was bullshit, and a bullshit deal. And anyway, so a couple of months go by, and I'm like, I still haven't got my guitar yet. So I'm like, hey man, what about our little deal? I've been sleeping here on the couch, and it sucks. And he's like, oh yeah, our deal. We'll take care of that today. So he goes down the basement, and he comes back up, and he has this like archaic acoustic guitar pickup. It's like, when I mean archaic, I mean like it's like, if you saw this thing, it looks super weird. I wish I had it now, mind you, but back then, a pickup on my acoustic guitar was not an electric guitar to me. And he said, he said it was. All an electric guitar is one that you can plug in, so here you go. And he gave me this amplifier that was just the worst amplifier in the world. I can't even describe it. It was super quiet. It was all clean. It sucked. And so I got scammed on that fucking deal. So anyhow, yeah, Bliss Flower. They played music, but fuck those guys. Bliss Flower ended up leaving my house, or leaving after I moved. I moved out because I was so sick of them when I was younger, and he moved out shortly, like within the next few months, because he did something lewd to my sister, my little sister. Um, he made a real gross comment to her, and my brother heard, and my brother chased Bliss out of the house with a fucking log splitting axe, and that was the last we ever saw of Bliss Flower. Of course, I was living downtown at this point, but I heard all the information. Sorry, this is going on and on and on about this one question. Anyhow, that's the answer to my question. My father was a crack saxophone player. My children are both great musicians. My niece Lily is an amazing musician. And my whole step family, when they were my step family, were decent but very racist bluegrass musicians. What's my worst USA experience? Oh man. Okay, probably the scariest thing that ever happened. When this band that's playing right now, the Jackson Sanatorium, we were on our tour to New Orleans. and we stopped in Memphis to play in Memphis. We were just busking, busking wherever we could. We played everywhere, and it was great. But anyhow, our drummer was really into the marching powder, and like really into it, you know. So he's like, I'm gonna find some, and so he just grabbed some dude and said, Hey, do you know where I can find any, you know? And the guy's like, Oh, yeah, yeah, no problem, and he sold him a bag of it on the spot. Um, Now, Maddie was, the generous type, liked to share. So we all had some of this stuff, and it was pretty great. But when the when the guy left, he said, "Okay, now you're gonna want more of this later, I'm sure. So don't you deal with anybody else on this street other than me, and I'll keep you happy and I'll keep you set up." So we were like, "Okay, sure, whatever." It was all Matt's deal anyway, right? So we're on Beale Street. It's getting dark. We're all fucking out of our mind, and we're all out of the bag. Um, so Matt, we're all sitting in this hub kind of area, and Matt was like, "Well, I don't see that dude anywhere. So I did it once. I probably can do it again." So he just called another random guy off the street. And I said, "Yeah, yeah, sure, I'll take care of you." So they walked a bit, which is I don't know how I don't know. They walked behind something, which isn't really good. When you're a stranger in a strange town buying illicit drugs. Um, Anyhow, so this guy sold him a bag. It was it was like $100 or something like that, and $100 US. And now Maddie was smart enough to like when he got the stuff, he would taste it because when if it's real, you know it when you taste it, right? Um, and he did, and his stuff was like plaster of Paris or some kind of shit. And so he grabs the guy and says, "Hey man, like okay, you beat me. Just give me like half the money back, okay?" And the guy whips out a blade and starts fucking swinging a blade at Maddie. So Matt just fucking hollers for all of us, and we all come running over. The guy takes off, and as soon as the guy takes off, the first dude who sold the thing to us comes walking up, and he's like, "Hey, Maddie, I thought I told you not to deal with anybody else on my street here, and why'd you go do that? You almost got yourself in trouble." And so we were like, okay. Um, and then the guy started following us and asking us lots of questions. Where are you staying at? Like, what are you doing in town? Where, just trying to get info. And we were just kind of going. And we noticed as he was walking, uh, people were falling in line with him. And so it was obviously a gang we were dealing with, right? And so, we all start walking a little faster, and these guys start walking a little faster too. And it ended up with us just bombing off, like running for our lives um, to get to the van. Because at this time there was about 20 people behind us, and we were right scared. And they probably would have beat us bad, or stabbed us, or shot us, or something. But we got in the van, we drove away. They were all punching on the van as we drove away, and that was my worst experience in the USA. Getting chased by a gang over hard drugs. Yeah, that was it. My biggest disaster as a chef. I was a good cook. Um, when I was chefing at the Soul Food restaurant, my own restaurant, uh, at the Only, you know, other place, I've worked in kitchens since I was 13. Um, so I can't really think of any disasters I had when I was on the line because I knew what I was doing. I could cook steak, like the steak, better than anybody in the building. Uh, I had some guy ordered a blue. It was like a filet mignon, and he wanted it blue, which means basically like just get some grill marks on it and it's done. Like it's raw and cold in the middle, but it's kind of seared on the outside. Anyway, I had a guy come back and shake my hand once because he said it's the only time he'd ever been anywhere that cooked a blue steak properly. I was pretty proud of that. Um, and my specials always sold well. I was a good cook. I had a good name for myself at this point. Um, okay, so when I worked at the pasta shop, let's talk about that job. Because I did have the title of chef there. Um, they all called me Chef Patrick, and they'd make lots of, on top of making fresh pasta and fresh sauce, they'd make all kinds of frozen take-home suppers like shepherd's pie for two, or baked cannelloni, or stuff like that. Right? A lot of the recipes that the store used were mine. Um, I make a better chicken pot pie, I'll bet, than most people that you'll ever meet in your life. um, I can bake. I have a guy right now trying to figure out how I made my cinnamon rolls and baked my bread and stuff like that. I'm gonna shoot him some recipes. Um, so the biggest disaster I ever had as a chef was at the pasta shop, and now this was kind of a weird part of my life. I was very strung out on opiates I was taking at the time, and taking a lot extra than I would get on the street. Um, so I was pretty strung out, and when you're addicted to dope, pretty much the only thing that you're thinking about is getting out and finding your next hit of dope, right? Um, so I would often go into the pasta shop quite early in the morning, just to get a bunch of stuff done for when Paul came in, the owner. Um, I'd get the sauce ready, I'd get the pasta dough ready, stuff like that. Anyhow, I was in there. It was a day they were closed. It was like a Sunday or something, and I went in early just to do prep. We weren't open or nothing. I just went in to do prep work, and one of the things I had to do was make a batch of sauce. Um, Now, making sauce is basically like you got this kettle cooker that's the size of if you cut the top off, like cut the freezer off a refrigerator. It's about that size. It's this big honking kettle, right? And you open up like 20 cans of tomatoes and a couple big huge cans of tomato paste and a bunch of other shit. You put it all in the kettle, and after a couple hours, it's cooked off, and then you decant it, uh, into big jars, and you put them in this refrigeration unit, right? Now, I had been asked to go in on my day off to do prep work, and I used up the last of my dope like before I went in to work. Um, so after I'd been there for about 4 or 5 hours, I was like, I needed a hit of dope, and I knew where to get it. Um, I just needed to get out and go get it, you know. Um, so yeah, anyway, basically I decanted 40 liters of sauce. I think that was about it. Um, I don't know the. It was a lot. It was like we put it in gallon jugs, and there was like 12 of them when you were done, right? So I don't know how many liters that is, but it was a lot. And anyhow, and then you got to let it cool down on the counter for a while, and when it's like kind of like a room temperature, you put it in the refrigeration unit, right? So I had done all this stuff. I put I was letting the sauce cool on the counter, and at this point, pretty much all my other work was done, and I was starting to kind of get that real horrible feeling that dope addicts get. Um, I think it was because I knew where I could score. um, so anyhow, I hung out for a while. And it's hard to put you in that mindset if you've never been in it, but I just finally said, "Fuck it, I gotta go." So I put all the sauce in the refrigeration unit a bit early, and it was actually kind of a lot early because when Paul came in, the after I left, the refrigeration unit was up. Like the temperature of it was like hotter than room temperature, which you can't have in a food service refrigerator, you know. And it also may have broken the refrigeration unit. $10,000 for this motherfucker. So that was my worst experience as a chef. I got in a lot of trouble. Um, you know, the guy said, if I wasn't so good on other things, he'd fucking fire me right there, you know. So, yeah, that was a pretty heinous experience, let me tell you. That's my worst experience as a chef, or biggest disaster as a chef. Now, okay, so considering all the ingredients are made from scratch, if you have freshly made uh, fettuccine with Alfredo sauce, or freshly made spaghetti with freshly made meatballs and freshly made tomato sauce. And the Alfredo sauce would be fresh as well. Everything would be fresh and made from scratch. I've had both these dishes many times. Um, and I will definitely have to say spaghetti and meatballs. Uh, I'm more of a fan of tomato sauce than creamy sauce on pasta. So yeah, definitely spaghetti and meatballs if it's made from scratch, for sure. What's my favorite loose leaf chewing tobacco? Well, I've been trying a lot of loose leaves lately, it seems. Um, Most recently, the Stoker's Apple and the Stoker's Red Supreme, and I really like this a lot. Um, but, out of all the chews I've had in my life, a lot of the chew that I've had has been in plug form, or Suit and tie dip and chew guy sent me a twist that I really, really liked. Um, if I could buy twist around here, I'd buy it all the time. Um, Hillary sent me a couple interesting plugs. Um, I like them a lot. But when it comes to loose leaf, um, there's one that I really like that a lot of people think is gross, and it's Star Peach. I really like Star Peach. I really like Stoker's Red Supreme. I like all the Stoker's chews I've had. Moonshine, Apple, uh, Red Supreme. I guess that's all I've had of theirs. Um, Big Duke is pretty good. I've had that once. But when it comes right down to it, I just gotta go plain old original Red Man. That's my favorite. That's my favorite chew. Or Levi Garrett. Back to basics. When it comes to smokeless tobacco, I'm pretty much a back to basics kind of guy. Uh, so yeah, I'd have to say out of all the chews that I've had the best memories with Red Man and the best experiences with Red Man. So yeah. Although I gotta say these Stoker's chews are fucking phenomenal. Um, yeah, I'd probably buy them a lot if they were available here. Okay, and as a final question, Randy Rhoads or Eddie Van Halen? Randy Rhoads was a heavy metal guitar player, very in he inspired a lot of people. Very inspirational player, very unique player for heavy metal. Died at a ridiculously young age, um, and he played with Ozzy Osbourne. And Eddie Van Halen plays with Van Halen, of course, still to this day. Now, I don't listen to Ozzy Osbourne really at all. I'm familiar with his music, of course, but I don't listen to it at home. Nor do I really listen to Van Halen at home. But when it comes right down to it, I'm going to definitely have to pick Eddie Van Halen because I've always liked early Van Halen music. Always, always, always. Even before I got into punk rock, I loved Van Halen. You know, so yeah, Eddie Van Halen is my definite choice with that one. Randy Rhoads was a great guitar player, but it's what it is. All right, I guess that's all of the Jackson Sanatorium tape. Uh, so hopefully you got to hear that while I was yakking out the answers to these questions. Sorry the answers to some of them were so long, but that's how it goes. All right, so there you go, Melman Mandela. You got to hear a bit of the music I was making when I was pissing on cars, and hopefully answer your questions. And yeah, so to everyone out there on this butt ass cold October afternoon, I wish you all well and have a great day. Be well.